Welcome to the Black Male Equity Network podcast. I'm your host and moderator, Dr. Randy Whetstone Jr. And on this episode, we're going to talk about the art of manliness. Now, we've got some familiar guests on this episode, some gentlemen that you have seen before, and then we have one new guest. To my left is Dr. Christopher A. Jones. To my right, Dr. Aaron Rollins. And with us for the first time is the one and only Dr. Maurice White, faculty member at JCTC in Louisville, Kentucky. Fellas, how y'all doing?
I'm doing well.
Extremely well.
Thanks for having me.
Good.
Having me again.
So when we started BMEN in the summer of 2020, the first two words are black male, right? We're black men. We've obtained doctoral degrees. We've gone through this journey. And so because of that, we also represent what black manhood looks like, right? In our nation and in the world. So, Maurice, I'm going to come to you. When you think about the art of manliness, what comes to mind?
Man, I think about purpose. If we're going to do a word association game, I definitely think about purpose and then being true to that purpose. I think that is the journey of becoming a man, finding out what you're here to actually do. What's your quote unquote superpower. You feel me? So you have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations before you can even get to that point. I'm pretty sure all the fellas can share the same sentiment. We all had a time in our life where we said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And even worse, there's been time I asked, like, I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. But then you just go through life and you actually experience it. And when I say experience it, you experience it so you can take something from it. And your manliness is a culmination of all those things that you experience and that you actually learned from.
Yeah.
You feel me?
So how would you define manhood in your own words?
Manhood, circling back to what I said, truth. Truth. Being truthful. I don't want to get too much into separating it, gender-wise and so on, though. But, for me, when I think about manhood, I think about truth. Being true to yourself and true to your purpose and what you're supposed to be in this world, period.
I love that. Aaron, I'm coming to you. How would you define manhood?
I would say word association. First, thank you all for having me, man. I appreciate you all for having me here again. I think responsibilities. As a man, the first thing that comes to my mind is responsibilities. We're just responsible for so much, and you're responsible to your family, you're responsible to your community, you're responsible to the youth, you're responsible to the elderly. You're just responsible, and we carry so much weight. And I tell people all the time, I wouldn't want it on anyone else. Put it on me. Give it to me. And I just thank the Lord. I'm perfectly honest. One of my prayers is, Lord, please continue to bless me, so that I may be a blessing to others. That's my daily prayer that my son and I we share. So it's just about being responsible and using what we were given to help others.
Yeah. So you use the word responsibility. For a lot of men, regardless of race, especially in the U.S., it can come with some pressure, right? It's as if the world is on your shoulders. We all like sports. One of the gestures of LeBron James when he gets a tough and one is he does the shoulder thing, like symbolizing like, I can carry it, I got it. And that's the reality for a lot of men. So Aaron, for you, how have you embraced the responsibilities of manhood?
So first, I would say that I learned and I had to be honest with myself that I'm imperfect. You have to just be honest and say, I want to do right, I want to do better, but there's so many things that I haven't done right. And acknowledge those things and try to build off those things and build from my previous shortcomings. And try to move forward and be productive tomorrow. Understand I can't do anything about yesterday, but what I can do is acknowledge it, learn from it, and try to do better tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that. Christopher, I'm going to come to you. How do you define manhood?
I would say responsibility, number one, but also accountability. Because when you're responsible for your family, when you're responsible for yourself, when you're responsible for your community, you want to be accountable to them as well. So you have to hold yourself accountable because they're going to be looking to you for that guidance, for that direction. And so without accountability, you might not fulfill your responsibility. And so I would say responsibility, accountability, and then honor. Honor your commitment. Honor your values. Honor yourself. But most importantly, honor God in what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. For me, we're using a lot of these words to kind of define and look at manhood. I like what you said, Maurice, about truth, right? So one thing that stood out for me, or that does stand out for me as it relates to manhood, is being a man of your word. That aligns with truth. And I'll be honest, I struggled with that. So what I mean is, my father was alive, but he wasn't a father figure in a sense. And one of the episodes, I'll never forget, it was one Christmas, and it was like a video game I wanted. It was on PlayStation. And I asked my daddy to buy the game for me. I remember we went over to my grandparents, which was a tradition every Christmas. Dad was in the basement enjoying themselves, and I was like, Daddy, I said, did you get the game? And he said, yeah, oh yeah, I got it. He took a little sip of his beer again, and I said, well, where is it? Well, I got it. Don't worry about it. And I never got the game. And I never forgot, but it hurt me at my core, because as a young boy and as his son, you gave me your word as a man when I asked you for something, and it didn't come to pass. So as I grew up and as I became a teenager, young adult, growing into manhood, I said, my word will be my bond, right? My word is, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to deliver. And if I don't, I'm going to be accountable, right, as a man in doing that. So I think sometimes as men, we can maybe underestimate the power of our words, right? And how it sits with someone, what it means, and the weight that it carries. And so speaking of that, I gave an example of a story of my boyhood. Aaron, how do you think boys evolve into men?
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. One of my favorite scriptures. When I was a child, I spake as a child.
Yeah.
I understood as a child. One thing, they watch others, and I was grateful. And I look at my life a little differently. So my father wasn't there the whole time, but I'm glad in hindsight that he wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was able to watch so many other people. And I took a little bit from each and every person I was around. I was around some phenomenal women, just to be perfectly honest. My grandmother, when she was young, and I'll go quickly because I can do this whole thing alone. but when she was young, she would want to learn things. She wanted to learn sign language. Yeah. She wanted to learn this program that was about reinvesting. She would take me along with her. She would go in and take me with her to the nursing home. So I was just around women. Then I was around my mother and so many other people. But how I became a man was to watch what other men did. So I watched the things that my father did well. He taught me chess. I still use chess in life. He taught me, Aaron, you always want to think 2 moves ahead. When I make this move, this is going to have this repercussion, and then this person's going to do this. I think like a chess player. My dad taught me that. So just learning from everybody, always never feeling like there's anybody that you can't learn from. So I think the most important thing I did in terms of becoming a man is to just learn from even the most unexpected individuals, just taking something from everyone.
Yeah. So Reese, boys evolving into men, just because you're a certain age as an adult, does that make a man, or?
No, sir.
Okay, talk about
I'll
it.
tell you
Talk
why.
about
Me
it.
and Jerron just had this conversation. Certain guys, we peak at different times depending on it's really, based on the experiences that you have in your life. Some guys, a big role in manliness, I think, is the way we treat our women. And I could say that we probably all haven't been the best men earlier in our age when it came to women, though. But that was something that we had to develop. And some guys, didn't get the attention that they wanted from women when they was younger. So when they get older and they're the woman's choice, you're the choice man that most women want. Some guys aren't used to that or can handle that. And they act, like you said, they still act as a child would. You feel me? And do the things that I would maybe have done in high school when I was just trying to get familiar with relationships between women, So definitely age has nothing to do with it. It's definitely about your maturity as you, again, take that lesson from a specific experience, i.e. relationships with women. If you don't have any relationships with women at a younger age, then when you get older, more likely you're going to you're going to abuse women. Unfortunately, I just recently heard about a story, with a guy, and when somebody told me the story, I was like, when I saw his high school picture, I kind of knew. I'm being real. Like when I saw his high school picture, I knew, he wasn't gonna be a stand-up guy when he started dating this one specific girl. You feel me? And it fell that way. You feel me? It fell that way.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. Is there or tell me, what is the threshold for a boy transitioning into manhood? What is that threshold? What's that defining moment?
That's on every guy.
Yeah.
Really, there's no calendar date or year. That's when you can look at yourself and say, all right, it's time for me to start doing this.
Yeah.
It's time for me to start being this. You feel me? For me, it really was a switch like that. Like one day I was just like, I just want to be a better person. Not that I was a bad person, but I just felt like as a man, I want to be the best of what I can be or what I know I can be. You know what I'm saying?
What was your defining moment?
My defining moment was when I was actually in grad school. No, I take that back, after grad school, and I started working for Kentucky State University, and nobody had ever looked at me as a father figure. You feel me? But I was over a bridge program for students who are identified at risk of failure in college. And a lot of, as the time went by, a lot of the guys were saying like, nah, we don't call you Unc because you like a father figure. And I was like, whoa. And that's when I realized my purpose, my power that I had, and that was my defining moment right there where I said, I have this power. I'm not a child anymore, right? Yeah. So I have to use this power as a man and be the best man that I can be. I'm not saying flawless, you feel me?
Yeah.
Because I think our mistakes is what make us better, to be real. But I had to attempt every day to make sure that I was at least being the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge portion of manliness.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think I don't think there's a certain age. I think as a man, you get that and you just understand, hey, it's on me.
Yeah.
It's on me. And for me, as I shared with my previous episode, I was raised in a house full of women, 6 sisters and a mom. I'm one of 8 children, and the baby's a boy. And when I realized, wait a minute, it's on me, it just dawned on me. I think I was in high school at some point, and I realized, hey, I got to go out and get it. I have to go out and get it. And so many of us going to have that feeling. So many individuals, so many young men will have that feeling. I just hope that we can be a positive, and that's why I want to go back to your organization. I love this organization because what it's saying is it's showing so many young men, hey, that you're going to get that feeling. You're going to get that feeling. I don't care. If you keep living, you're going to get that feeling that, hey, it's on me. Hopefully, and take the examples that you see up here with the podcasters and say, but I can go get it this way, I can go get it that way. And hopefully you can come get it the way many of us have gotten it and learn from our mistakes and our flaws and our imperfections, because the Lord knows. I heard you say, mistakes make us better. I should be great because I made a bunch of them. I made my fair share and some.
Yeah, I love that. Christopher, I'm gonna come to you. What's your number one goal as a man?
Oh man, I was gonna piggyback on what Aaron was saying.
Go ahead.
To be honest with you, because you all been saying some great things, but I know from a chronological standpoint as well as our society. Being a man, you become a man at 18. However, for me, when I started accepting responsibility is when I became a man. At 18, I wasn't accepting responsibility because I didn't want to pay any bills. So I was deferring to my parents. I was deferring to my friends, on certain things. And so when I accepted responsibility, in terms of employment, when I accepted responsibility in terms of how I was going to navigate, when I accepted responsibility for my actions or inactions, then that's when I started becoming a man. And as I became a man through time, then I'm becoming a better man each and every day that I'm alive and have the opportunity to continue to progress. So although we're men, we still are becoming better men or worse men. But I want to be the best man that I can be. And that's why being accountable to my brothers like you all, I can become better each and every day. So my number one goal, as you asked, is to be the best version of myself so I can be the best version to my family, to my community, and to the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. You know, I was the same way. You know, my threshold or my defining moment, it was probably around the age of 25. So when I finished up, I was finishing up undergrad. I started at WKU, and then I finished up at the University of Louisville, staying in a dorm, had one of those little residential apartments in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And then when I came home, I moved back in with Mom. And so when I finished school, I was working. I got to a point where, am I really ready to pay all these bills? My defining moment, I lie to you not, my little sister was still in the house. We're 5 years apart. So little sis is 20, 25. You know, Mom is, you know, she's older than both of us. There's two women now in the house, clashing. And for me, I said, I can't be in the middle of this. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm not on little sister's side. I'm not on Mama's side. And I said, I think it's about time to go. And so when I moved, you now got to be responsible for rent, for utilities, for a phone bill, for food. It's like you got to get it by any means necessary. Right, you got to get it legally, right? You know, you got to get it, and your name is on it. I think that's what it was. Learning the power of my name as a man, and what I signed, meaning this is what you are responsible for, Randy. Ain't no co-signers, ain't no calling whoever, whatever. People need to understand the power of the weight of that as well. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
And I like how you brought up the power of your name, because it also reminds me of the story that you just shared earlier. About what your dad said to you and how it affected you. Because he gave you his word. And your word, like his name, meant something different. Yeah, he's still your dad, but his name is kind of tarnished in your heart to a degree because he didn't tell you the truth. So as a man, what do I say to my community if I'm lying versus being truthful? So now my name is tarnished in the community. And so there is power in your name. You know, and so what I tell people often is don't prescribe what you don't want transcribed later. And so by speaking something ill. And so when you lie, then that's gonna come back on you because you reap what you sow. And so I try to speak love because there's power in life and death in the tongue. And so you wanna be as positive and be as loving and as affirming as possible because you don't want that to come back on you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because your name has power, your name has presence, and your name has possibilities. And so, it's a lot in that.
We only get one.
That's
one
it.
name.
One name. Don't tarnish my name.
But that people know who you are.
Exactly. They know who you are, what you represent.
A leopard would, a cheetah would never lose a spot. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to the question I asked you, Christopher. Your number one goal as a man.
Oh, I said to be a difference maker and to be the best version of myself. But however, another goal is just to make a difference. Make a difference. I want to make a difference in what I say, in what I do, and in the legacy that I live, and in the legacy that I will leave when I'm no longer serving in this body.
Absolutely, I love it. I love it, brothers.
I would echo that. 100%. I came here not with my own free will and accord.
Yes.
But I, under the circumstances, I want to do everything within my power to leave this world a better place than I found it. I want to leave every relationship in a better situation than I found it. Leave this world in a better place than I found it, and that's just what I like to live by.
Yeah. Reese, what are your thoughts?
Man, number one goal to continuously to live in my purpose and to value my purpose. Because I feel like if you do that, just like Aaron said, you will make the world a better place. You're going to make lives around you even better when you know your power, like your real, true superpower, and you value it and you use it for what it's supposed to be for.
And goals are important to have, for us as men.
Definitely.
You wake up every day knowing I'm working towards this,
Yes.
right? We don't want to be in a whirlwind of ideas and searching and wondering because, there are still people who might be dependent upon us. There's always somebody watching us,
Yes.
watching our life. They may not tell you, but all of our lives are like a movie. Somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Someone's
watching. And the question is, what is the movie review that they would write, on our life,
That's
right?
right.
What would they say? What would they do?
5 stars or 2 stars?
Yeah, 5 stars and 2 stars. You're right. So sometimes I think we lose sight as
Yeah.
men of how we are influential with our peers, other men, but the generations coming after us. So let's talk about that. What can we do? We're professionals. We're busy. We have families. We have careers. We have all types of things. What is it that we can do to reach back and pull up a young boy, regardless of race, who says, you know what, Dr. Jones, Dr. White, Dr. Rollins, Dr. Whetstone, I may not be where you are one day, but I look up to you as a man. What kind of charge do we have when it comes to that?
I think it's important to be open and to share. I love telling my story. I talk about how poor we were. I talk about how embarrassing it was when I used to get off the school bus and the windows were up and the door was open in Mississippi. You know what that meant? The lights were off. I remember going to the neighbor's house, with a bucket asking for water. I remember learning how to cut our water back on, when the water company cut it off. I mean, just telling your story. My story is not a good story. I'm sorry. My story is not all peaches and cream, I should say. But explaining to them that, but Mama taught us, as I shared in the last episode, hey, in this house, you're going to either get a degree or be all you can be. And now 8 siblings, it's 8 of us, and all of us are, just doing phenomenal, and we're blessed.
Yeah.
So I tell them, hey, you can start from down there. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And it's about picking yourself up and saying, you know what, it's on me. It's on me, Those people, there are people who came from situations like mine or even worse who are doing much better. I want to show every little young man, every little young woman, hey, it doesn't matter where you started. It's up to you, and there's so many opportunities. And to give grace, give grace to people who don't always make the best decisions at a young age.
Yeah.
Because, I'm just blessed. Lord knows I'm blessed because I should not. I have friends who did some of the same things I did. Who are not sitting here, who aren't able to sit here right now. And to give grace to people who aren't making the best decisions right now and try to help them understand that it's not about today, it's about what you can do tomorrow.
Every day, every single day, something we can do to make that difference. Maurice, what are your thoughts about Generation Z, Generation Alpha in terms of manhood?
Man, it's very different, man. Very different, but at the same time, we were different to the generation that was before us.
Absolutely.
So I really think it's, we could sit and talk all day like, man, y'all soft, y'all ain't did it. But man, let me tell you though, when your uncles or your daddy or somebody tell you like, yeah, I had to walk 8 miles.
Yeah.
Some of them really did.
Yeah.
So I think we just have,
Yeah, up here both ways, with the snow.
Like, how you do that both ways? But yeah, we just really do have to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more understanding and know that, just like with anything else, watch the trends. Like watch what's going on with these newer generations because, again, they're still men. And they have different challenges that we probably wouldn't have never even had to face. And I think there are some specific battles that they have to fight that we had to worry about. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sexuality was nothing we had to worry about when we were 13, 14, 12. It was, I hate to say it, the most we thought about was like, man, I'm going to pinch this girl booty or something. And, but now they have so much access to information and they really do have a lot more pushed on to them than we do. So we have to be open to that and understand, like, man, they dealing with cyberbullying. We didn't have to. You say something about me, Aaron, we gonna fight in the grass. Either we gonna be friends or it's gonna be on site every time we see each other. More than like, well, in our generation, we was friends after that. But we definitely got to be mindful of the battles that they have to fight, be understanding, and know how we need to communicate with them. So we can make sure we can make that connection because regardless of the era, the generation, or whatever the case may be, there's universal manly lessons that can be pulled upon and oh man, that need to be taught.
Yeah.
You know, and learned.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
share.
Also,
Yeah,
I
sure,
believe that
definitely.
mentorship is very important because, you know, without a mentor, in a lot of cases, you may not have that father figure in the home. And so you're going to be mentored by somebody.
Yes.
And who is that somebody going to look like? And so if it's somebody, per se, who is not educated or who doesn't have what you're what you may want to become, you know, those qualities, then how do you become that? It's hard to become what you never see,
Yeah.
you know, and so being able to have somebody who looks like you, who is educated, who can sow into you and mentor you is what a lot of our young men and women need, boys and girls need in our society as a whole. And then additionally to that point is in terms of mentorship, we have to allow students, well, not students, our young people, the opportunity to grow and build that relationship, because people don't care how much you know until you show how much you care. And so don't just be that judgmental individual.
Yeah.
Be willing to meet them where they are,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but don't leave them how you found them type of individual.
Yeah.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah.
And I think it's important, though, specifically for black men, that even if you don't have sons, you feel me?
Yeah.
For us to, you know, to get out there and show them what it is that you can be, even if you just a plumber or you just work at Burger King, whatever. The fact that you're a black man,
Yeah.
I know they'll value that. You feel me? Because they want to see other versions of, you know, black men other than what it is what they see on TV. We can't let TV be the narrative of what we are, because we're not that a lot of times. Well, no, we're not, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I just know the people around me, you know,
Yeah.
other than my father, other men is just so impactful for my life. Grandfather, he taught me good work ethic. You know, my uncles, they taught me good family. The guy named Irvin Ricks, my God, I want to be just like Irvin. He took me, you know, a little naphead boy around the church, you know. Hey, come with me. He took me under his wings, you know. Just so many people in my latter years, you know, Victor Martin and Carol Pringle just taught me about, you know, Aaron, take this to the next level, you know, and they would come to me. And I'm not talking about, these aren't highly educated individuals, but they saw me and they saw something in me and they said, hey, Aaron, we got you. Do this a little differently, do that. And I still listen to these individuals because I cherish what they gave me.
I can name Mark Treese, 5th grade teacher. Gary Cooper, he was my marketing teacher in high school. Like, those were the first two black men that, you know, weren't celebrities, athletes, or whatever the case may be. They were everyday dudes, and, you know, they held me accountable. Like, get off that table, boy. Put your pants up, this, that, and the other. But it was with love, though. You feel me? It was definitely with love.
And also, I believe that a lot of our black men, black boys, they lack vision. They lack vision because they don't see beyond their streets. And so if I lack vision, then how can I set goals? So if I can't set goals and I lack vision, then I'm probably not going to rise above my economic situation. I'm probably not going to get the better job. I'm probably not going to live in the best living conditions that I could potentially live in. And so helping men create that vision, see that vision, write that vision, and then help it to become plain through their goals, setting smart goals, goals that are specific, goals that are measurable, goals that are obtainable, goals that are realistic, goals, you know, and goals that are timely, you know, short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, etc.
Can I jump
Go
on
ahead,
one
yeah.
thing? One thing I am noticing about this generation really is not even economic anymore. Like, more of them want to just be known, famous, or just be popping, whatever the case may be. So really, more so, it's not even money that they're motivated by anymore. They really want to be famous because you can tell them, hey, you're more likely to make $100,000 as a plumber than being a rapper or an athlete or a YouTuber, whatever the case may be. But they'll still gravitate to that You feel me? Like, no, you can be that. You can have this money now. You feel me? But they want that. They want that clout. You feel me?
Yeah.
And I think that's another big difference between generations and having to understand that.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, wholeheartedly expresses them like, man, the odds are this.
Yeah.
You know, if you shoot dice, then you know what odds are, right?
Right.
And just breaking that down to them, man.
Well, the opportunity we have is bridging the gap between the two. Because fame just isn't based on sports or music or film.
Nah.
You can be a famous plumber
Yes.
in today's society.
Yeah,
With the
that's the truth,
advancement of
though.
technology and what it is, you can have a trade. And however you have your charisma, personality, and all of that, you can be the world's most famous plumber, right? But we're not thinking like that, right?
Yeah,
We're thinking
yeah.
it's just a plumber's one job. But we have to understand that one talent or gift or job position can be manifested in a multi-dimensional type
that's a
of
good
way.
point, Randy.
So the key
That's a real
thing
good point.
for the young boys is developing that skill, that talent, and let's look at a multitude of what you want to do. You want to be famous? Oh, that's not hard. That's not hard. You can do it in really just about any field or discipline that you're in, right?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
See, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to be famous and broke. I want to be famous and have money.
Well, hold on. There's people with I never understood. There's people with IGs that are homeless though.
Exactly.
But they
Exactly.
popping because they on IG and certified. You feel me? I'm like, hold on. How did
Yeah.
you get certified and you homeless?
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, brothers, we're coming up on our time. You all have kind of done this already, but I wanted to ask you who your top 3 male role models were. So you all have already mentioned some names. So I want your give me one name to finish us out, Reese.
Man, I gotta say my daddy. And I'm gonna tell you why. I wasn't raised with him. I wasn't raised with my dad at all. But I knew I wanted to be a dad just like him. Within those 6-7 years that he was in my life, that's how impactful he was until, he let the drugs take him away. You feel me? But he was so impactful in them 7 years that I was like, oh, that's the type of dad that I want to be and I'm going to remember to be.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah,
That's
I love
beautiful.
it.
I love to hear that, man.
Yeah.
So mine, different eras, I would have a different person, because I needed that different person
Yeah.
during that era in my life. But the one common theme, it's my grandfather. It's W.C. Minifield. He has just been phenomenal in terms of showing me how to be a man.
Yeah.
My
Shout out to
grandfather, man.
grandfathers.
He's been there throughout all those different eras. But if I go era by era, I can give you different names who are impactful.
Yeah.
But man, Mr. Minifield, hey, WC.
Yeah, I love it. I love that.
WC.
For me, I would say Dr. Walter Malone Jr., the pastor of the Canaan Christian Church. That would
Good guy.
be the mentor that I would share.
Yeah, I love that. For me, I'm gonna say my grandfather as well, Paul, Leonard Carl Whetstone. He taught me the Whetstone way. And, every day I just try to live it out and make him proud. 'Cause I know he'll be happy.
That's all you can do.
So, brothers, I thank you all for
thank
being
you
on
for
this
having us.
episode. We'll talk more about this art of manliness. We're just now barely scratching the tip of the iceberg. So, got a lot more to talk about.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for
Let's
having
go.
me.
Thanks for having
Let's
us.
get it, man.